Hey legends! I've had a really long week at work, so today I thought we're going to get some inks out because I love playing with ink, and we are going to have a play in some sketchbooks. It's low key, you can try it too, do it with me. Get your sketchbook, get some inks, go for gold or watercolor, whatever, or just get whatever you want. Don't do anything like me. So snorted, that's how you know I'm tired. The inspiration of today is I discovered an artist during the week, which is a bit slack because I think she's part of the same art mentorship program I'm in, and I've just never realized. But her name's called Terry Linda. She does these amazing inky loose landscapes with ink and water and mark making, and they're pretty much very abstract, semi-abstract type landscapes, but they are beautiful and I love them. And I thought, can I try to do that with some animals? So today I've got some ink out because I love ink. I love using ink. My HSC piece, I used ink and a matchstick to make really like cool marks and lines and stuff for my HSC, and I've since done some. I don't know, I go through phases where I don't do it, but today I'm just gonna throw everything at it. So I've got some inks. Let's have a chat about what I've got to use today. Let's talk inks first. I love Liquitex inks. I love Daler Rowney's inks too, but there's a big old but with Daler Rowney ones. I find their bottles are frustrating. So this bottle here, the soft bit on top has cracked, and I've tried to stick tape to it to try and make sure my ink doesn't dry out, and really there's a bit of ink there that's come out, and it's so when I go to shake it, which these need a lot of shaking, ink ends up coming out of that drop a bit. I find that really annoying. And this ink's not very old, whereas this muted violet ink I've had for donkey's years, and it's the bottle, there's nothing wrong with the bottle. The bottle is still a-okay. So, and I've had this happen with a couple of my Daler Rowney inks where the drop a bit, it cracks. It's annoying, but I love their inks. That's what's annoying. And the other thing that I find annoying is you have to shake it for ages, and you can see like all the pigment at the bottom. It's really annoying. I do have here a bottle of Atelier ink. Now the only reason it's here is because I'm trying to use it up. I'm not a massive fan of Atelier acrylic inks. I find them really frustrating. I've also got here a small jar of Winsor & Newton Indian ink. So I've got a big bottle, so I put a little bit into a little jar for me to use. So that's Winsor & Newton Indian ink. But in the black region, I'll go back and tell you all the other colors too. I've also got this ink that I bought for a workshop a little while ago. It's Zig Cartoonist Super Black ink. It's water resistant, alcohol resistant, okay. It's matte black ink. Yeah, it sounds interesting. It'd be good for my sketchbook. I'm just not sure how the light fastness. Yeah, I don't know. I'll try the Zig Super Black ink. We'll give it a whirl, why not? So they're my two black ones, is my Winsor & Newton and my Kuretake Super Black. Those are my two blacks. I then have, I probably won't use this color, although I'm trying to use it up so that it doesn't completely dry. So look, I'll tell you the colors I've got here on my table. I'm not going to use all of them because that would be crazy. This green one, which has broken, is, I always find it so hard to find the names of these. Emerald green, that is. Emerald green. I do also have the Daler Rowney turquoise, but it's a very light color. I'm looking at using really dark, moody inks and seeing their reaction to water. So anyway, I do have my fluorescent here, but I more than likely will not use that in the Daler Rowney. And I do also, this one I've had for donkey's ears. It's got dry ink around the bottom. I don't know why that's there. But this is the Purple Lake by Dale Rowney as well. Yeah, so I've got them. I've also got, there's a couple of colours I've got here that I don't like, that I just want to use up. One's sepia, so I've got the Dale Rowney sepia. I've also got the Art Spectrum sepia, just not on my desk, because that's just what I do. So Liquitex, I've only got 2 of my Liquitex inks here. One's a muted violet. I'm not a massive fan of it again, so I thought I've just been using it up in my sketchbooks and stuff. I'm not even halfway through the bottle. That's crazy. And I've got quinacridone magenta in Liquitex. I've also got, again, I've forgotten to grab it to show you, from Art Spectrum Indigo. So I've got Indigo and Sepia in the Art Spectrum. Again, I really like them. They're pigmented inks, so they're not quite acrylic inks, and I do quite like how they act. I do have, oh, I thought I had the blue. I don't know whether I'll even use these. In this little squeezy bottle, I've got some high flow acrylic paint by Holcroft in here. So in this one is Deep Sea. This has Deep Sea paint in it. So it's really super fluid. It's essentially acrylic ink, just in, you know, big old bottle of it. You see that's got the same issue with the pigment at the bottom. You can see the color difference. So if it's got any white in it, usually that happens, and you've got to shake it for ages, and I find that really frustrating. I want to be able to just grab and go, which I don't find is too much of an issue with the Liquitex. Let's talk sketchbooks. I've got here 5 sketchbooks because I kind of want to be able to do multiple artworks at the same time. 3 of these artworks I have purchased from Bound to Love Them. Of those 3, 2 of them I have available on my website for you guys to buy. So if you love them, go over and have a little look and have a buy them. Just buy them. Just do it. I dare you. Alright, this is the first one. This is my newest one. This one's literally, as I'm recording this, it's actually not even on my website. So, you know, when I sit down to record, I'll upload it onto my website. It has 200 GSM satin watercolor paper. I've never tried satin, so she made a mistake, but I'm not a paper expert. I am also not fussy on my paper. So the sketchbooks I picked to try this is because they've got good quality watercolor paper. So I haven't chosen anything that I've used just my sketchbook paper in. So a lot of these, there's only one here that I've actually made because I find it's too expensive to make sketchbooks out of super nice watercolor paper. But Bound to Love Them only uses good high quality paper, watercolor paper. Yep, so it's 200 GSM. It feels very nice. So I actually haven't started in this book, so that's the first one. We're going to actually have a try of my new one, satin watercolor paper. The other one I have for sale is my Steve watercolor paper. It's very dirty. It's getting dirtier and dirtier. This one has 300 GSM hot pressed watercolor paper. So I might love the satin. Who knows? I reckon I will. She only ever uses good paper, so I'm not worried about it. So that's got 300 GSM hot press paper. I love hot press. This is a sketchbook I also bought from her, but it's not a custom sketchbook. It's just she had it for sale, and it's not quite landscape. Like, it is landscape, but it's not like a long. It's not A. I think it's a bit squatter than A5. And this paper, I'm actually not entirely sure what it is. It's not hot pressed, so I'm thinking I think it's 300 GSM cold pressed watercolor paper. I think. Don't quote me on it. I think that's what it feels like to me, because it's a little bit rougher. Hot pressed is really smooth, whereas cold pressed, it has a little bit of wrinkles. It has a little bit of texture in it. It's like when you iron your clothes, you apply heat and it goes flat. So that's essentially what hot press paper is. It's just been ironed. They don't iron it necessarily, but they use heat to press it, so it becomes super smooth. It's like ironing your clothes. Now the 2 other sketchbooks, let me go. Alright, so I've got my one that I've made, which is my A3 This is Bruce. This is not my newest one, Willis. This is Bruce. This is the one I've had for ages. And it's got 200 GSM cold press paper, I think. It is quite smooth, but I don't think it is hot press paper. It might be hot pressed. I don't know. It's just 200 GSM watercolor paper. I'm not too sure it's hot or cold pressed. And it's in, this is my A3 sketchbook. I've been trying to fill him up, although I love, it's just so expensive to make A3 watercolor sketchbooks. So Willis, my newest A3 sketchbook that I've made, doesn't have watercolor paper. It's just sketchbook paper and craft paper and alternated signatures. So maybe the next, once I fill up Willis, maybe I might make another A3 watercolor sketchbook. I don't know. Artec have this paper called Como paper. It's just not as, it just doesn't hold water as well as watercolor paper. I don't know. Anyway, the other sketchbook I've got, after rambling, is I was supposed to say Artex. It's not Artex. It's, and they've got all sorts of things. I can't think of the brand name. You would, some of you guys probably know it. I just can't think of the name. Arteza. This is an Arteza watercolor sketchbook. I've had it for donkey's years. I barely used it, and I thought, oh well, let's just crack it out and start using it. One side's got rougher side paper, and then the other side of the paper is quite smooth. So it'll be interesting to see what happened. This is not a video to test watercolor papers. It's just to have a bit of fun with some ink. I've got paintbrushes here. I've got sticks. I've got all sorts of things. I was hoping to use maybe my dip pen, my glass dip pen. I'm just not sure where it is. I think it's inside. I might go get it. But I've also got, so when I use my indigo and black inks, I've also got my Inktense blocks, because I was playing around with just adding some scribbles into the wet ink, and I actually really like how they turned out. So I've got black and indigo in the Inktense here for me to add to those ones, because I know they'll match up pretty well. Let's just get cracking. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to open up. I think I'm going to use this sketchbook first, because I'm excited to try it out. And yeah, let's just get going. Okay, let's go. So here it is. This is the Bound to Love Them square sketchbook that I've got with the satin watercolor paper. I thought, being the first page, I actually want it to be fairly bright, so I'm going to get out Dale Rowney's what one's this one? Purple Lake. We're going to use that one first, and I'm going to try some stuff. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed my little play today. And I hope you guys did some with me too. Let's have a little look at the artworks I did. This was the first one I did here. I know it doesn't look it, but it is meant to be a bear. But I actually really like it. This is what I want from my semi-abstract style, is I want it to be recognizable as an animal, but maybe not quite exactly what animal. And is it an otter or is it a bear? But I think it's really cool. I have to admit, I think this one is my favorite one. So this was with the Daler Rowney purple ink. I can't remember the name of it. Purple Lake ink. And this one I started with just putting water down in general shape and then using the dropper to put it on, and then I had that explosion, which was why I've got all this, like, all little dots and stuff everywhere. But I did mop up a little bit of the explosion, but other than that, like, I like it. I really like how this one turned out. And the 200 GSM satin Fabriano watercolor paper, it's really nice. I actually don't know is there much difference between it and normal hot press watercolor paper. I don't know, I couldn't really tell, but it is nice to work on. I like working on it just as much as I do my regular hot press watercolor paper. It did warp a little bit, but I think that's because it's 200 GSM, and I think that's pretty standard really for 200 GSM. Yeah, really liked him. He was my favorite in this. Then I did the black and the indigo. These two guys. Again, they're both two bears, just in two different poses. I used an old book I've got as for references. And when I'm working in my sketchbook, I don't mind using books. So this is it here. It's just the Larousse Encyclopedia of Animal Life. And it's just got like, it's got a couple of color photos in there too, but majority of it's these black and white photos of just a heap of different animals, and I really like it. So I sometimes use it, but only really for sketchbook work because I don't want to breach copyright. So yeah, so these guys I did with the Winsor & Newton ink. To be honest with you, I just love how the Winsor & Newton Indian ink just goes with water, reacts with water, it runs, it moves, it's really nice. It's really nice to work with. I went too dark too soon though with the face, which is why you can't really tell exactly what that is. And this is the indigo with the art spectrum indigo ink. So that's what the bottle looks like, a little bit like that. I then went over the top of both of them with the Inktense blocks. I really like working intense blocks into a wet artwork. I just think it's, I really like how it looks and how it feels. Some of this was into the wet, some of it was dry, and I left it as the dry marks. I'm wondering if I use my fixative over it just to make sure it sticks and doesn't move about. But I love that look of the Inktense on top of the ink. I think it looks really cool. I'm trying to remember the next one I did. I can't remember. I can't remember if it was, I don't know. Let's just have a look at this we'll look at the smaller ones and then we'll look at the big one in a minute. So this was an echidna. I again really like how this turned out because there's such an abstract nature of it. I then went the quinacridone magenta ink by, this was the Liquitex one. I love the color. You can't get real darks. You can, but I wanted them darker. So I actually used, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I used a little bit of my indigo Inktense over the top of it. A little bit into the wet, a little bit on the dry. Again, I think this is really cool. I actually think that turned out really good. Now I use, like I said, I've been trying to use up my Atelier acrylic inks. It's just taking so long. So I decided to do a really heavy-handed picture. I actually don't mind how it turned out, but I just don't enjoy using it. And you can see the shine as the light hits it. It's very plasticky. You know, the Daler-Rowney and the Liquitex are both acrylic inks as well, and they don't have that real plasticky feel. Even while you're putting it down, it's like you're using watered down plastic, and it's just not particularly pleasant. Although I do like how this one turned out. It is very different to the other ones, but you can see, like, I'm going to need to put something on that, otherwise it's going to stick to the other page if there's anything acrylic paint or anything on the other side. So I just don't like it as much as the other inks, so I think I'm moving away more from it, but I want to use up what I've got because, yeah, maybe I should give it away. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. And then the last one, because I was then thinking, I'm really liking how these are turning out, but I think it would look even better, bigger, which is why, it's kind of why I got Bruce to be involved in this. So I wrote the name of it, a tarsier, and it's just a real odd looking, it's an odd looking animal to start with, and that's what I liked about it. I'm not a massive fan of how this turned out. The paper I use in the paper I made this sketchbook out of, I think was Fabriano 200 GSM in a roll, and I think it's like student grade, but there's a right and wrong side, and I know that sounds really silly, but you can see in the recording that the water didn't sit on top of the paper. It soaks in almost immediately, and so I think they must size one side, must do an external size on one side of the paper but not the other, and as far as I'm aware, it only really happens with this paper. It was 200 GSM, it was a student grade, it was in a roll that I used to make this sketchbook, but other than that, it's really cool. So I started layering up, and then the paper wasn't quite handling it, but I still don't mind him. I think I could have put more layers of ink on, I think, rather than lines. But yeah, still like how he turned out though. Because I'm really leaning in lately into this whole ugly art, because it's so good for mental health as well. There are so many benefits for both your health and your art when you do ugly art. But anyway, cool bananas. Thank you so much for joining me. I've really enjoyed this. It's been a nice low-key type video for once. Yeah, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All your support is greatly appreciated. If you want to know more about behind the scenes and things like that, and some more top tips and things, there's a link below to sign up to my newsletter, and I send out newsletters about every 2 weeks just to let everybody know some different tips and tricks and what's coming up for me, and if I've got a new YouTube video out and things like that. So yeah, go ahead and do that. I'd really greatly appreciate it. Just a simple like will do too. Thanks guys.